Hi everybody, this is the tutorial for the VEX Build where you'll learn how to assemble some structural pieces in robotics class. The first part of the assignment asks you to collect some materials in a green bin. So here I have two different sized Allen wrenches or hex keys. I have black screws. I have nuts here. Collars, these are collars, shaft collars or collars. Bearings are here. These are the shafts or axles. They look like that. And these are the brackets, different size brackets. Okay, so to start, you're going to fasten two brackets together. So I'm going to move aside the things that I don't need for right now. And for fastening, I'll need screws and nuts, and I will also need a tool. So these tools are different sizes. This one is a larger diameter. It's wider or thicker. Okay, the diameter is larger. This one is the smaller diameter. This has a smaller diameter. Okay. So to fasten the black screws, you're going to use the larger diameter wrench. So I'll put the smaller diameter one aside, use this larger diameter wrench for fastening black screws. So when you choose your brackets, it can be two small brackets, it can be two large brackets, it could be one of each. It really doesn't matter. It also doesn't matter how you fasten them. The most important thing in this activity is that you're learning how to use the tools and the hardware to fasten. So to make this easier, I'm just going to do these two pieces. And to fasten, I'm going to use a screw in the center and a nut to hold the screw in place in the back. So if you notice, the nut has like a locking washer, which looks like little teeth. You want those teeth against the surface that you're fastening. So I'm going to put it so that the teeth are facing down like that, okay? And then you can hand screw it on like this, and then use the tool, the larger diameter tool, to fasten it. And as you fasten or tighten, you're gonna hold the back. The nut needs to be held in place because you're tightening the screw. To tighten, it is turning to the right. So right now I'm turning toward the right, righty-tighty, tightening, righty. Turning toward the left would be loosening. Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, righty-tighty. So I'm tightening to the right. That's really well in place. I'm going to do another one to keep it really secure. So I put my screw through, I'll hand thread and hand tighten the nut at first. The teeth are facing down. Hopefully you can see that. The teeth are facing against the surface. Then I can use my larger diameter wrench to tighten, righty-tighty, righty-tighty. Okay, these are fastened in place. They're attached, they're fastened. I'm all set with putting them together. Next is looking at the bearings. These are the bearings, and the point of a bearing is to create a circular hole for an axle or a shaft. So if I placed this axle through and I tried to move it, it's moving in a square hole. The bearing will make a round hole, okay? So to fasten the bearing, you'll use screws and nuts again. Fasten it in place. And then use your larger diameter Allen wrench to tighten. I put one on either end, as long as you have it fastened in two places and one opening for the axle. That's all you need. The teeth of the locking washer should be facing down. Tighten that up. And then hold the nut and use my Allen wrench to tighten, righty-tighty. So there we go. This axle is going to go through all the way like that. I would need 3 bearings, okay? And I did that before, kind of like a cooking show, and they're like, I already baked it. I did this already, okay? So it's fastened. This is in place, this bearing. You have another bearing here and another bearing there. So when I go to place my axle through the bearings, there's a nice round hole for that. Okay, so we've used different pieces of hardware. We have an axle or a shaft, but this axle or shaft is not really secure, right? It can come out. So that brings us to the purpose of collars. These are collars, shaft collars. A collar has a small black screw inside called a set screw. Okay, that's the small black screw, and it is a set screw. The set screw can be tightened or loosened with the smaller diameter, the skinnier or smaller diameter Allen wrench. This is the larger diameter. That's the larger diameter. This is the smaller diameter. It's skinnier, smaller diameter. This is the one that you'll use with collars, okay? So I'll put that one aside. So before you start, just kind of like put the smaller diameter wrench in and lefty-loosey, just kind of get the hang of it, and righty-tighty. So if you lefty-loosey too much, the set screw will come out. That's bad, very bad, because a collar with no set screw is useless, okay? So when you're using these, don't loosen the set screw such that it can fall out. That's bad. So when you're loosening it, kind of loosen it like a little bit. And then to tighten, it's righty-tighty. So kind of just like get the hang. Don't let the set screw fall out. That's really bad. Okay? And then the whole point is to keep this in place, okay? So let's say, for example, let me just show you. If you got a really small axle, like that's gonna be really hard to work with. So try to find one that will at least go through that far. If I try to put it through all 3, it's not really gonna work. Okay, so I'll show you how to fasten on either end here, okay? So you will take a collar, put it on the end, hold the collar, hold your wrench tool, and righty-tighty. As soon as it starts to resist and it's tightened, stop turning. If you over tighten, the set screw can get stripped. That's also bad. You do not want that. So don't over tighten. And if you find that your wrench is unable to loosen it, then the tool is probably stripped. The tool, ends of the tool can get stripped and lose their shape. That's like sort of bad, but not too bad because these are pretty inexpensive and that just happens. It's normal wear and tear. If you over tighten this and strip it, that's kind of like preventable. You don't have to over tighten it, so don't do that. And that's preventable. These will get stripped no matter what, the tools. Okay, so be careful for over tightening, and look, you notice that that's now secured in place. And to just kind of explain it to you, we'll fasten this end as well. Put on the collar, put your tool in the set screw, and righty-tighty, do not over tighten. Why don't you over tighten? Because you'll strip the screw, and that's bad. Okay, here you go. So now it's in place, it spins perfectly. That's the point of the shaft collar, okay? When you're disassembling, lefty-loosey to loosen. Do not over loosen Don't let the set screw fall out of the collar. So just left a little, slightly, just till you hear it pop, and then stop, because we know it's loose. Take that off. This is the smaller diameter Allen wrench for working with set screws in the collars. To loosen these guys, you'll use the wider diameter. Hold the nut in the back, lefty-loosey. You'll have to hold the nut, and it should come right out. Repeat. Loosen, lefty-loosey, that should come right out. And you can repeat for disassembling. All right, there you have some basic assembly techniques. You'll use these throughout the whole course, so please make sure you understand and ask questions. Thanks.